Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Innovating Agriculture, How Malaysia Could Become a High-Tech Agri-Hub organized by the MDPC and the Embassy of the Netherlands in Malaysia and partners. So today, before we carry on with the panel session, we would like to now take the opportunity to first invite the Ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Excellency Aart Jacobi, to present his welcoming remarks.
Good afternoon. YBhg Dato Haji Zainal Azman, Secretary General of the Malaysian Ministry of Agriculture and Food Industries. Our distinguished panelist speakers, Dr. Mahaletchumy of the Malaysian Biotechnology Information Center, Dr. Mohd Desa of the Malaysian Ministry of Agriculture and Food Industries, and my good friend, Mr. Frederik Vossenaar of the Ministry of Agriculture, Nature and Food Quality of the Netherlands, and to conclude, Mr. Damien Schwarzkachel of Sertel, Netherlands. And of course, to all the ladies and gentlemen who are participating in this webinar with us. It is a great pleasure for me to be here at the inaugural launch of the webinar, Innovating Agriculture, How Malaysia Could Become a High-Tech Agriculture Hub. This is a timely topic as there are rising pressures on food production worldwide. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization estimated that we need 70% more food production to feed a global population of 9 billion by 2050, up from the 7 billion people that we have today. And we need to do so in an increasingly challenging environment. We have climate change that will impact the yields of agriculture. We also have many other factors, such as rapid urbanization, which means less land for agriculture as cities grow bigger, and a reducing workforce that is no longer so keen on the manual work of agriculture. In this context, it is therefore imperative that the farming industry reinvents itself through the use of technology and innovation. With new technology, such as sensors and remote monitoring systems, farmers can now grow under any condition. They can control the elements, be it light, air, oxygenation level, carbon dioxide levels. All these can be monitored. And this means that seasonal crops and those which are non-native to the local climate can be produced anywhere, all year round, independent of the weather. We are now looking at production of food in unprecedented ways. Technology is a key enabler for farm transformation. It is changing the nature of farming itself and attracting an entirely new generation of farmers, people whom you do not traditionally associate with farmers. It is very likely that in the future, many of these new farms will resemble high-tech manufacturing facilities rather than the traditional idea of farms, which will be assisted by automation and robotics. If our farmers can continue to take bold steps to innovate and to push the envelope, Malaysia will not only be able to strengthen their own food security, but also contribute to global food security by exporting food and farming technologies to help with other countries' food security needs. In conclusion, I hope that everyone, whether you are a farmer or an aspiring one, researcher or academic, can learn and share some ideas and perhaps spark more collaborations and innovation, and hopefully create more innovation for all of us. By working together, we can continue to grow this sector. I hope you will have a fruitful and enriching time in this webinar. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Excellency Aart, for sharing your perspective and for officially officiating the webinar today, organized by the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands and One International Exhibition, the organizer of Agri Malaysia, as supported by MDPC. So we have now heard from the ambassador on how Malaysia can eventually innovate and become one of the key producers of agriculture or even food producers of the world. But before we proceed with listening to all our panelists today, allow me to also take this opportunity to introduce to you 5 of our very esteemed speakers who have agreed to take their time off from their very busy schedule to share their thoughts and experience with us. The first speaker of today would be the Secretary General of the Malaysian Ministry of Agriculture and Food Industries, Yang Berbahagia Dato Haji Zainal Azman bin Abu Seman. And then our second speaker will be Dr. Mahaletchumy Arujanan. She's the Executive Director of the Malaysian Biotechnology Information Center. Third speaker will be Dr. Muhammad Desa bin Haji Hassim. He is the Deputy Director of the Crop Quality Control Division of the Department of Agriculture, Malaysia, followed by Mr. Frederick Vossenaar. He is a special envoy to the Agro-Business Development Unit of the Nature and Food Quality of the Netherlands Ministry of Agriculture. And last but not least, our very esteemed speaker from the corporate sector, Mr. Damien. He is the Business Development Director of one of the largest agricultural company in the Netherlands, Serton. So, without further ado, I would like to invite or share with you the Secretary General's recorded speech as he sent his apologies, and he will not be able to join us in person today. But however, before we go into the speech by the Ministry of Agriculture, represented by the Secretary General, perhaps one of the key topics that we would like to talk more about today is that referring to the speech by the ambassador earlier, he talked about how can the world actually nourish 9.8 billion people by 2050 through very sustainable practices while providing economic opportunities in both rural and urban communities. I think this is one of the key pain points that many countries and many corporate sector are trying to address, as we all know that our food systems today are really falling far short of these goals. Food systems today that we see somehow do not currently provide nutritious food in a very environmentally sustainable way to the world population. As we all know today, as of today, nearly 800 million people are undernourished, while 2 billion are micronutrient deficient, and 2 billion more people are somehow overweight or obese. So therefore, at the same time, food production, transportation, processing, and waste are putting unsustainable strain on environmental resources, and we will all be addressing and talking about all these pinpoints and perhaps also opportunities of how by innovating technology, innovating agriculture, we will be able to overcome if not some, if not more, but some of these challenges that we are facing today. So without more ado, I would like to first invite the Secretary General of the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Industries, Malaysia, to share his thoughts with us.
Thank you, Ms. Ng Yi Sin, the moderator for today's session, respected speakers, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to address all of you at the opening of today's webinar on innovating agriculture, how Malaysia could become a high-tech agriculture hub. At the outset, I would like to express my warmest gratitude on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Industry, MAFI, to Agri Malaysia and the Kingdom of the Netherlands for co-hosting this webinar on this exciting and important issue for the Malaysian agriculture sector. I believe that with the right dialogue partners, this webinar will be able to achieve its objective, especially through the exchange of valuable knowledge from both countries in order to enhance the contribution of the agriculture sector to Malaysia's economy while improving food security and quality with the adoption of new technology and innovation. As we are all aware, the devastating and unprecedented impact of the COVID-19 pandemic transcends borders, compelling global communities to adopt and adapt into a new norm. It is high time for us to review some of our priorities to better brace ourselves for any global health calamity in the future. This includes improving food security and food production through optimizing the utilization of technology in agriculture. During the initial stage of the pandemic, the food distribution in Malaysia was also affected due to disruption in the supply chain. However, with immediate intervention and constant monitoring of the situation on the ground by the Malaysian government, the food supply remains stable and under control. Difficult situations require innovative ideas, and this is where rapid technology adoption becomes a necessity for the Malaysian agriculture sector. For your information, the ministry is in the midst of finalizing its new national agro-food policy. From the introduction of the policy, Malaysia is aspiring to develop her agriculture sector to embrace modernization and smart agriculture. For this to materialize, the whole ecosystem from the ministry to the industry players must be nimble and must be able to work hand in hand during its implementation. Malaysia can learn from the Netherlands' experience and success in spurring the agriculture sector as one of the contributors to the Netherlands' economy. The ability to bring together government institutions, industry players, academia, and NGOs to collaborate and develop her agriculture industry is one of the key ingredients for its success. In fact, the ministry also has an office based in The Hague, Netherlands, covering the Europe region to assist in areas such as market access, sanitary and phytosanitary, trade facilitation, bilateral agriculture cooperation, and to strengthen the collaboration in terms of transfer of technology. Ladies and gentlemen, the ministry welcomes the participation and collaboration between agriculture companies, universities, research institutions, NGOs from Netherlands with their Malaysian counterpart to join our effort in making Malaysia a hub for high technology agriculture. Given the strength of Malaysia in various aspects such as infrastructure, education, geographical location, incentive and stability, economic stability, it is my hope that the cooperation between Malaysia and Netherlands will continue to produce mutual benefit. With the immense experience and expertise assembled today, I am confident this webinar will be beneficial and facilitate a very constructive exchange on agriculture innovation, providing useful insight to agriculture technology adoption in Malaysia and also in the Netherlands, and also exploring ways to strengthen its capacity. To end, I wish to everyone a fruitful discussion today. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Sekjen, from the Malaysian Ministry of Agriculture and Food Industries, Dato Haji Zainal, for sharing your thoughts with us. As you correctly and very aptly said, that the world today actually needs sustainable agriculture that must simultaneously deliver food security, environmental sustainability, and economic opportunity. And I think from your speech just now, you also clearly said that a systematic transformation is needed at an unprecedented speed and also scale. And I completely agree with you when you said that government, private sector, the academia, and even perhaps the civil society would need to come together and work together to not only to innovate, but also to jointly transform the entire industry. And as the Sekjen actually mentioned, this can only be done when everyone collaborates, everyone come to the table together and bring to the table your forte, your expertise and knowledge. And I think this actually, together with what the ambassador has said in his welcoming remarks, and then after listening to the highest leadership of the ministry in Malaysia, of course, after the ministers, I think we are definitely going to be on the right footing, as in the way forward to, number one, is to learn from the Netherlands, a very successful country in terms of agricultural development, agriculture technology, but I think Malaysia will then stand a very good chance to be able to innovate and transform ourselves to be one of the key global players moving forward. All right. I would now like to invite Dr. Mahaletchumy Arujanan. She is the Executive Director of the Malaysian Biotechnology Information Center, and she will be addressing us now.
Yingsin, and good afternoon, everyone. Let me share my slide. Okay, let me know if my slides are loading and if you can see my slides. So you see my slides now?
Yes, very
Yes,
well.
thank you. Okay, thank you very much. So good afternoon, everyone again. And I'm happy to be presenting on this very important topic because the Malaysian Biotechnology Information Center and also my parent institute, ISA, International Service for the Acquisition of Agri-Biotech Applications. We are very much into technology transfer and linking different stakeholders in agriculture, as aptly said by the ambassador and also the Secretary General, that we need to become highly productive because of the unprecedented time and also because of many other challenges, climate change and growing populations and many things, which some of it I will be discussing. So I want to start with the usual perception of agriculture. To me, as a science communicator, I see that it's often frustrating that a lot of people think that agriculture is like a very beautiful sector. It is certainly beautiful, it is very important, but many people tend to romanticize agriculture, thinking that if it's agriculture, then you are going to see beautiful countryside, green, clean, and happy people working in the farm. But then agriculture has got its ugly side as well. You know, it brings in a lot of soil erosion, waste into our waterways, a lot of biomass that's being burnt. And in Malaysia, for example, we pay as haze every year. It's like our annual thing that we get used to it. And it also is a big producer of greenhouse gases. So with all these challenges and the negative environmental footprint that agriculture brings, so we need to address this so that, of course, we still need agriculture. There's no way all our food can be produced in the laboratories. Although now we are also looking at that. Technology is allowing us to look at that. But again, that comes with another set of public awareness, behavioral change. So, but we still need farmers and the actual farm. So people should actually change their mindset to see that agriculture has got problems. And that is why we need many other technologies as well. So if we look at just the greenhouse gases, agriculture is the second greenhouse gas emitter after the transport and heat, electricity and heat industry. 13% of greenhouse gases comes from agriculture industry. And mainly these are carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrogen dioxide. This comes from cattle belching, a lot of it from livestock, natural synthetic fertilizers, and manure management, rice cultivation, burning of crops, and many other things. So I just want everyone who is in agriculture might know this, but then the public, the consumers, I think people should know what agriculture brings to us, so that when we introduce new technology, it receives acceptance from the public. His Excellency Ambassador and also the Secretary General mentioned this. World population is growing, and this has been said for so long, so it's nothing new. By 2050, we are going to have 9.8 billion people. That is an additional of 2 billion people. It's really a huge amount. So what FAO says that we need to produce 70% more food. Now, 70% more food from where? From the same planet? I don't think Elon Musk is going to have Mars anytime now suitable for agriculture. So from the same planet that we live today, and in fact, from reduced resources, fresh water is reducing, number of farmers reducing, the area of land is reducing. So with reduced resources, we need to produce more. How is that going to happen? Now, if we look at Malaysian statistics on that, affordability, we are ranked among 113 countries. This is from Economic Intelligence Unit. From about 113 countries, we are ranked 28 in terms of affordability. Now, before that, I think it's also important for everyone to understand what food security is. A lot of people think food security is there is enough food. That's not food security. There's only one component of food security. There might be enough food in Malaysia, but then in the small rural area that I live, I don't get food. So the food availability is not there. Now, even if I get the food quality might not be there, food safety might not be there, and even everything is there, I might not be having the buying capacity, or I can't afford to buy the food. So there are many components: affordability, availability, food quality, and safety. So for Malaysia, we are ranked 28 out of 113 countries, 26 when it comes to availability, 42 when it comes to quality and safety. Not so bad, but certainly we can become more innovative. and more productive. So if we look at, I'm going to start with questions. Food security. There is no way we can actually strike a balance when it comes to food security or food self-sufficiency rate. Now, when we talk about should we be food self-sufficient, meaning should we be able to produce all the food that we want in our country, that is not really possible. Because of course some crops are our climate does not allow us to grow those crops, but sometimes like rice, for example, even if we can grow 100% rice, is it going to be feasible? Do we have enough land? Do we have enough farmers? So that might be another problem. Sometimes the cost of importing might be lower than producing in our country. But then the thing is, we have to strike a balance between national security. Food is a national security item. Without food, political instability can happen. So we need to strike a balance between the cost and national security. For example, take COVID, for example. We had all the money to buy the rice, but Thailand was actually stocking up their rice for emergency. So it is a matter of national security. So what do we do? And does agriculture GDP show the real picture for Malaysia? I'm going to talk about that. So this is Malaysian GDP that's contributed by agriculture. Of course, we see this trend in all countries because as we develop, we see that agriculture takes slowly, it shrinks a little bit because we become more advanced. Manufacturing and other industry takes a bigger pie of the share, so agriculture becomes smaller. So that is what we've seen in Malaysia. I don't see something wrong in this, but then if we can increase the productivity, then then it might help. So for now, Malaysia world average is 10.46 in 2019. Ours is 7.3, so below 10. So that is the GDP contributed by agriculture for Malaysia. Now, again, having said that we contribute 7.3% of GDP through agriculture, does it really give the real picture? Now, look at this. This is where our GDP from agriculture comes from. Oil palm is 38%. So oil palm is a commodity. We can't eat oil palm as a staple food. But then 38% of what is contributed to GDP through agriculture actually comes from oil palm, which means we are not really that big when it comes to agriculture. Now the others is livestock and poultry is 15%, fishing is 12%, logging is 7%. Of course, logging doesn't contribute to food security, but of course it's important. And then rubber, still we still are producing rubber, very small, 3%, and then all the other agriculture produces 25%. So if we look at other things, of course, Malaysia has grown in other economic areas, services, manufacturing, mining, quarry, construction, and import duties. So we still need to do a lot so that we can increase our pie that is related to agriculture. So if we look at employment opportunities, fisheries, employment is 15,000 plus, total wages is 315, forestry logging is 26,000 plus employment, and total wages is higher than fisheries, 700 plus million. This is ringgit. Huh? Crops, all crops put together is 368, and quite a lot of wages. That means these are the salaries earned by people in that sector. Livestock and poultry, 34,000 plus, and the wages is 700 plus. Of course, oil palm is really big. It's 1 million, and I could not find the total wage. I'm sure it's a very big number, which is healthy. Now, if we look at our farmers, how are we? Our farmers doing? The average age of Malaysian farmers is 52.9, which is not very healthy, because what happens when they stop farming? We don't have a succession plan. We don't have many people, young people coming into farming. The basic primary education for farmers is 47. Those with primary education, 47.5% of our farmers have primary education. Secondary education is 42.9, so it's like almost similar. Tertiary education, only 4% of our farmers have tertiary education, meaning our graduates do not want to go into farming. And no education is 3.5%. So I think this is where we need improvement as well. How can we encourage our younger people and those with education to get into farming, urban farming, and through modernization of farming? And if we look at food sufficiency, our food sufficiency, Rice is at 70%, slightly above 70%, and we are doing good in cucumber, brinjal, spinach, eggs. Of course, poultry, we are doing well. Long beans, lady's finger, pineapple, cuttlefish, banana, shrimp. We are more than what we need. Meat, tuna, crab is almost there. Kembung is a fish widely eaten by Malaysians. I think it's called Indian mackerel, 83%. Coconut is 78% in spite of having very conducive climate for coconut. Cabbage, chili is very low. And this is another area, Malaysia, in fact, I'm sure Minister of Agriculture had a lot of chili project, and we have got very good chili varieties, but more could be done because we still import chili from Thailand. And I remember when many years ago, when Thailand had very, very bad flood, we did not have chili in Malaysia. Beef and mango, very low, and mutton is certainly very low. So what is our net import? We are a net importer, 24%. And import bill, our food import bill is 54 million ringgit, and export bill is 35 million. So you see, we have a deficit in food bill. Floriculture. I picked floriculture because we are doing pretty well in floriculture. We have two main floriculture. One is temperate and the other one is exotic. Temperate is mainly grown in Cameron Highlands, Gua Musang, all those highland places. And our main temperate flowers are chrysanthemum, 44.7%, roses, 25%, and carnation, 12%. Most of it, 71%, is exported. And we export to Japan, Thailand, Singapore, Australia, and UAE. Our exotic main one is orchid, and the orchid, of course, dendrobium is a very popular thing. And I know because I speak to a lot of orchid farmers in Malaysia, and they say that they can't meet the demand. So there is so much can be done for orchid, and if we can get young people to grow orchid, there's so much of demand, and they can't meet the demand from the other countries. So the orchid is grown in hot and humid lowland, and 28% is exported, and mainly Singapore, Australia, Japan, and Saudi Arabia. So what is happening in floriculture? We have competition from Vietnam and Thailand, very stiff competition. And this comes from a paper where farmers, the producers of flowers spoke, and it was said that they feel that there's no government subsidy or any preferential treatment for floriculture farmers. They also have difficulties in hiring foreign workers, and their stiff competition is that there are challenges also when they want to export. High transportation fee and high import tax, because other countries they have import tax fees. Now their competition comes from Chinese flowers, where the government, our government, is actually importing a lot of Chinese flowers from China, and they are much cheaper because our local market is not protected, whereas in China, their market is protected. So this is not a very healthy situation for our own farmers in Malaysia. So if we look at floriculture, it is growing, which is really good. Malaysian, and this is in USD. So it is a healthy thing, but probably more could be done to support floriculture in Malaysia. So biotechnology. Now coming to technology, one technology that I picked up is biotechnology. There was some discussion earlier, just about 5 years ago, that the Ministry of Agriculture thought that we could grow corn in Malaysia and genetically modified corn. Because we are a big importer of corn for both our poultry and livestock market, because we are very big in livestock. And we ourselves, Malaysia, we eat poultry meat per person in 1 year for 49.4 kilogram, which is quite big. That's the cheapest meat, and it's a healthy meat. So, and we import 4.15 million tons of corn in 2019 to 2020. So if we can grow genetically modified corn here instead of importing. Now, studies have been done, and there are different discussions here. Some have said that the cost will be higher. True, the cost might be higher, but I also mentioned that what is important. Are we willing to pay a little extra and make sure that national security is safeguarded? And it also offers other employment opportunities in agriculture. So these are the areas that is open for more discussion and probably open for more studies as well. So some of the reasons for low supply, local supply in all areas in agriculture, insufficiency of agriculture productions. Distribution network, we need to improve that. Our overall supply chain, we need to see where are the missing links and we need to improve that. Land availability, for example, there's an over-reliance on Cameron Highlands. Just that small highland produces 10% of all our vegetables that is used in Peninsular Malaysia, Peninsula. Now, not to mention how much goes to Singapore. So, and we see the huge environmental impact caused by farmers there when they infringe or encroach into forest land to open up new farms. Raw input is and labor is a big problem that farmers face. Utilities and logistics is also not really at the optimum level for farmers, whether it's cost or availability. And there are also many layers involving producers, processors, wholesale distributors, retailers, consumers, and all these actually affect cost and final prices. The lack of economies of scale, which means we are not still able to produce at a larger scale with lower cost. So a lot of problems probably in the whole supply chain, raw material, taxation. So these are the things that we need to look into so that we can help our farming industry. Lower price for imported products. So when imported products are coming in at a lower price, so our farmers are not able to have a protected market or have a market where their demand for for local products. And sales and service tax, SST, on raw materials used in agriculture or components and services. So maybe the government could also see how this could be reduced, or I mean, I'm not an economist, but is it possible to abolish? So of course, these are, I mean, subject to more studies, discussion, and consultation. So what can be done? Manufacturers could be given tax exemption or applying low tariffs on their imported raw and semi-processed materials that they use for farming and local food production. More land for agriculture, but again, we can't be opening up too many land, and then that also creates the environmental footprint. So it has to be sustainable, and this is where precision agriculture, IoT, drone, and many other things. His Excellency mentioned that as well. Our Sec Gen also mentioned that. So we need technologies. How about adopting agri-biotechnology, genetically modified crops? So this is where, because I'm involved in biosafety regulations and speaking to the regulators, scientists, and also industry, we feel that the current biosafety law in Malaysia, the law is good, but the implementation process needs to be more science-based. And also how we need to look into vertical and urban farming, where I think a lot of countries are going into this. And as Malaysia urbanize, I'm going to end. This is my last one. And also aquaculture, protein from fish is going to be the next, it's going to be the next wave in agriculture. And we need a seed industry in Malaysia. Malaysia lacks seed industry. So finally, we need to look at agriculture and look at all the challenges that we are facing, labor intensive and aging farming, and how technology can enable it, and looking at the three sustainable pillars, which is environment, economic, and social. And for that, science, technology, innovation is certainly important. So with that, thank you very much. Sorry for taking a little extra time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maha, for sharing with us such a comprehensive, masterclass, I would say. And certainly this short panel session will never do justice to all your knowledge, your hard work. And we all know that you are a very hands-on person. And that's why your perspective is so rich, the way you share with us. We could actually feel so much passion in you. And the interesting thing is that you actually started your presentation with by talking about the ugly side of agriculture on affordability, quality, and safety, availability. And actually, those are the things that many people do not realize, because when people talk about food security, people always think about, do we have enough food? So I think your deliberation earlier actually, I believe, would have opened up a lot of minds among the audience, and also you correctly pointed out 4 key points that I really liked, which is the key challenges that most agriculture sector is facing. I think these 4 challenges go beyond Malaysia, where you talk about inclusivity, sustainability, efficiency, and also whether the food's going to be nutritious and healthy. But maybe during the Q&A session, we will be able to, of course, with if time allows us to do that, maybe we would like to talk a bit about your idea about genetically modified crops, because I know that itself opened up another can of worms. There are a lot of people who agree, a lot of people who will never agree with genetically modified crops. But it is interesting that you actually brought it up in this presentation. After we listened to Dr. Maha with a comprehensive presentation of her thoughts and what's actually happening on the ground, we have an interesting poll for all the audience to participate. So if you'd like to take some time to quickly look at this, look at the question as in what should be the top 3 priorities to increase GDP contribution for agricultural sector. Pick your answer, and it will be interesting to see what are your thoughts. And of course, the Secretariat will be sharing the feedback of the poll with all of us here.
Yinxin, there's a little bit of a technical problem. I think the audience can only press 1 answer. So we're going to bring it up again where indeed they can tick 3 answers. Just 1 second, please. It's coming up again.
3 answers, right?
Yep.
All right, look like there is a small technical glitch over here. Although we always talk about innovating with technology, we need to transform. Yes, we can't really, organize a large event with everybody in one room due to social distancing. So therefore, we are doing the online poll. But somehow, with a little bit of technical glitch, we have to give the Secretariat a little bit of time to...
Okay, the request is made to do the poll during the Q&A later. So if you can please move the program along, thank you.
All right then, ladies and gentlemen, we will come back to the poll later during the Q&A session. And we would now like to invite Dr. Muhammad Desa bin Haji Hassim, the Deputy Director of the Crop Quality Control Division from the Department of Agriculture, Malaysia, to share his slides and presentation with us.
All right, we have seemed to have lost Dr. Desa. He used to be online, he was with us as a panelist, and we have lost him. We will try to reconnect, but I think it's time to move on to Frederick.
All right, looks like we have another technical glitch over here. We lost Dr. Muhammad Desa on the line, but never mind. We have a speaker from the Netherlands, actually 2 speakers from the Netherlands. So let us now hear from Mr. Frederick Bosenar. I hope that I got your name correctly. He's the Special Envoy of the Agro-Business Development Unit from the Nature and Food Quality Netherlands from the Ministry of Agriculture. And so without further ado, let us now invite Mr. Frederick to the floor.
Good morning to you. Can you see me and hear me?
Yes.
Yes, both.
You can?
Yes.
Thank you very much for having me in this seminar. I'm really excited. I worked in the embassy in Thailand as an agricultural counselor for a while, and was also accredited to Malaysia. So it's a great pleasure to be in this webinar this morning. My presentation is about how the Netherlands became the 2nd largest exporter of agriculture in the world. Let me reach out to the next one. Some information that might be useful about the agriculture in Holland is actually we have a very small landmass. Really, we're a very small country. You can see the agricultural area in the slide. It's quite modest. About 1 million hectares of grassland we have, and we are famous for vegetables and fruits and so. But that's about only 100,000 hectares. And as you can see, only 9,000 hectares is glass houses. And that's where the famous flowers and the fruits, vegetables come from. And it has given the Netherlands a very competitive image. And I'll speak about that later. The other thing that I want to highlight is that there's always a lot of talk about the European common policies and all the subsidies and the protection that it offers to farmers. In fact, the most competitive sectors of our agriculture are those that did not have such heavy EU regulation, like potatoes, pork, the glasshouse horticulture, flowers, poultry. Dairy is maybe the only exception, but for the climate, producing milk in our climate is very a competitive thing. But mostly it was left to it says the largest food producers. I think it's better to, as you have called it, food exporters here. As you see, the United States is by far the largest exporter of agricultural products. But what stands out is the Netherlands being the second largest, is the very small area on which we produce that that value of our exports. So now, when it comes to the origin of the Dutch competitiveness in agriculture, while you see one of a typical glasshouse, the answer is basically very simple. The origin of Dutch competitiveness in agriculture is innovation and entrepreneurship. Now, I could wish you a very pleasant day and then hook out of the seminar, but so the first thing that I think I should mention is, of course, we have a very strategic location in Northwestern Europe with many rich markets nearby. If you have high quality perishable products, to bring them to your customer, you of course need superior logistics. I think with the Schiphol Airport and Rotterdam Port, we have built it certainly is very important to satisfy your customers' needs. And of course, we are a trading country, so we have discovered a long time ago that imports contribute a lot to our exports. For example, the Netherlands is the second largest exporter of avocado in the world. Why that is? Well, because it takes a lot of ripening, and the producers from Peru or Mexico or South Africa, they ship these products to the Netherlands. We do the ripening, supply them on time to the retail, and with such product flows, we can easily also distribute our own vegetables. So, and avocado is just an example, but imports contribute a lot to our exports. You can see in this slide, I talked about your strategic location, but if you look at these circles, that for example, Milan, a very rich market in the northern part of Italy, is only just more than 750 kilometers. Paris is within the 500 kilometer range. The German market is very close. And we have been providing food to cities already from a long time. I think United Nations celebrated or marked a few years ago that more than half of the population in the world was living in cities. And this landmark was actually reached in the Netherlands already in the 17th century. The Netherlands was the first country in which more than half of the population was living in cities. The second country in this respect was Great Britain, and it happened 200 years later there. So our farmers have been providing food to the markets for centuries, and it has become a part of their DNA to comply with the demands of consumers, not only in our country, but also in these markets nearby. Now, what I think the second pillar of our agricultural success is surely also the sectorial interaction and the way the various parties in the supply chain connect to one another. You can see in this slide part of the Westland area, which is the most famous glasshouse area in the Netherlands, squeezed in between The Hague and Rotterdam, the second and third largest cities of our country. And these people, you see glass houses, but it's basically an ecosystem that you see here. It's an ecosystem because, well, you can build a glass house, but you also need specialists or supplying companies in different aspects of the supply chain. You can see some here. I hope the slide is visible, but you need good, for example, water and nutrient systems. You need exporters, you need financing, you need lighting experts, people that know how to handle robotization or automation. And the Netherlands, in this respect, is very much an ecosystem. So it's not about just constructing a glass house, but you need a whole lot. And that made the Netherlands, in the theory of the Harvard professor, Professor Porter, an example. All the characteristics that Porter listed that are needed for innovation, you can find in the Netherlands. In fact, he used the Dutch cut flower sector as an example for his theory. And you can see the characteristics of the Porter model in the slides, but the Netherlands fulfills these criteria, not only for cut flowers, but I think also for poultry, for pork, for dairy, for potatoes. You have these pockets of knowledge in the country that make the sectors quite competitive. Like this is the ecosystem that you would use for a horticulture. You see it runs from education and breeding materials, from primary production to sales and trade, and it runs along with many different specialized sectors supplying inputs to these greenhouse sectors. So you can see them on the slide, you know, like as I mentioned, the water systems and energy systems, crop protection, various things. That also runs, the connection to the other sectors is not only limited to horticulture, but also to the other sectors of our economy, like logistics, as I already mentioned, the high-tech materials, but also the creative sector, for example. Like if you have high-quality tomatoes, to get them to the consumer in an appealing way, that you create a nice packaging and things. This kind of cooperation outside of the horticultural sector in a strict sense, we consider very essential. Now, I think the third pillar of the success of Dutch agriculture is surely related to the cooperation that we have between the government, the private sector, and the research institutes. And that happens on various levels, not only national level, but also the regional level. I think about half of our country is below sea level. There's always the historic explanation for this kind of cooperation, that if you want to build dikes and polders, you cannot do that by yourself. You have to work along with the government and the private sector and the research institutes to keep it all floating. This has also been a very useful model for the co-financing in research. For example, if farmers have a need for some research to be done, they talk to the government, they talk to research institutes, but the financing is then also something that we preferably share to make sure that the research that's done actually fulfills the requirements of the farmers or related companies. So the cooperation extends to education, which of course is hugely important, sometimes also underestimated. Farming is just not a simple business. We have a very top university, Wageningen University, I think is famous in the whole world. But the vocational training and the practical training are just as important, and they are connected, and make sure that the program that they teach is also in line with what companies need and what research institutes finally are looking for. So the fourth pillar, I think, of our success is and it's really a source of innovation, is the proximity of farming activities to cities. And there's always, this might be a nuisance to farmers, but I think it has also led to a lot of innovation where citizens, for example, they complain about the smell of animal husbandry or the use of pesticides because it is happening in their backyard. And it's still a nuisance. In our country, also a lot of political discussions follow out of this, but the transparency and innovation that it creates in the farming sector has been a source of innovation. For example, the use of or abolishing pesticides was very much driven not only by consumers, but also by citizens. The Netherlands is the second largest exporter of agricultural products, and it's certainly not our ambition to become the #1 in the world. We exported last year, I think, 2 billion euros worth of tomatoes. And that's all nice, but the most important thing, and I think also very much our ambition, is to make sure that other countries can produce with Dutch technology the same kind of tomatoes. This picture I took in India in a Dutch-style greenhouse, and these tomatoes were shipped to the shelves of an Indian retailer, and the guy put on the package crafted by Dutch technology. And I think if consumers in foreign countries can see this as a recommendation, then we sort of reached our goals. And this, of course, is also available to Malaysia. We know Malaysia is a very competitive and very strong country when it comes to agriculture. Working together with Malaysian entrepreneurs and with Malaysian stakeholders is something that we really aspire. So I want to thank the organizers for the opportunity to address such a distinguished Malaysian audience. And I hope in the future the embassy can be the bridge to stronger cooperation in agriculture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frederick, for sharing well all the success stories from the Netherlands with us. I mean, we all know that the Netherlands is so famous for your tulips, your cheese, your dairy products, and of course now, wow, I know you have tomatoes going around the world as well. Well, you at the beginning of your presentation, you clearly stated 3 very pertinent points that perhaps this is what Malaysia is lacking. I mean, of course, from my perspective, is that the rich market nearby. The word rich could be rich in consumer demand, consumer spending. Maybe this is something that is a little bit lacking in this region. And then imports contribute to export. This really put us, thinking what more can we do so that we can also emulate what the Netherlands have done. And of course, superior logistics. Rotterdam have fantastic logistics system, the network. I witnessed this firsthand when I was visiting the Netherlands some time ago. But of course, what you also mentioned about proximity of farming activities somehow have resulted in constant innovation and sustainability drive. And then after listening to your success stories from the Netherlands, that actually kept me thinking, comparing what the Netherlands have done successfully and then looking at ourselves, and then suddenly I realized that we have the issue of inadequate infrastructure or not as perfect as the Netherlands in terms of information, perhaps financial inclusion. All these are some of the key factors that actually make things difficult for farmers to actually gain access to cost-effective products, services, and information that could actually boost their productivity and profitability. And the way you share the entire map, as in the entire ecosystem network that make agriculture works, I think that is something very important that maybe perhaps and many other countries will be able to look at Netherlands as a success stories for us to learn from. All right, I was told Dr. Muhammad Desa bin Haji Hassim, the Deputy Director from the Crop Quality Control Division of the Department of Agriculture Malaysia, is back with us online. May I now invite Dr. Muhammad Desa to address us.
Dr. Desa, please also unmute yourself. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for Ms. Chair and distinguished guest speaker and ladies and gentlemen, whether from in Malaysia, in Netherlands, or in any other countries who view my speech. Today, I would like to talk about the overview of Department of Agriculture initiative and opportunities in terms of how Malaysia could become a high-tech agriculture hub. The focus today, we like to talk about what activities in Department of Agriculture
focusedly mainly into can see my slide, right? Okay. Okay, I would like to discussing more on how Malaysia could become a high-tech agriculture. We just listened from the first speaker and second speaker to share the experience and overview of Malaysia, and also the success story from Netherlands that very impressed for us to for Malaysians departments of agriculture. Our roles for departments of agriculture just decide on expedite the agriculture transformation process as a modern sectors. And the main activity is to ensure food production are sufficient and affordable. Sufficient and affordable for the peoples in the countries. We also provide in terms of one-stop agriculture consultations, technical support service. That's one-stop activity to extend the technology enhancements to develop human capital for the agriculture sectors. We have a training center. We have farming to train the farmers and also to train the youth to support the industries in Malaysia. For the purpose of the country, we also the role to protect the country interest for the industry. And this is a major issue and challenge for the agriculture sectors in Malaysia. The first, we are lax in terms of seed, quality seed produced in the country. Most of our seed production are import mainly from European countries, and also Netherlands is one source of our seed technology and seed for farmers, especially like tomato and also for the floriculture sectors. We have a problem to the high cost of productions because implementations of the technologies they lag behind compared to your countries, and the level of technical applications and low productivity and also inefficient using of lands and the problem of low level of technology application. Besides that, we also still depending on the labor force, mainly from foreign labor. Okay, based on our climate conditions, Malaysia is good in terms of weather. We have a sunshine around the year, throughout the year, and also we receive rainfall patterns around the year, and the temperature between the 30 to 32 degrees. This is very suitable for the climate condition, especially for the tropical fruits and also tropical crop in the countries. This is, we have a land fertile, we have a suitable lands, very good for agriculture production, but we still have the issue because the implementations of technology still lag behind in terms of this, because of social and implementations of the impact in terms of economic and socio-economic. We still need some support from member countries or other countries or any technology to bring in Malaysia. So the next, we have to show you what the Department of Agriculture approves to ensure that in the future, next planning for the next Malaysian plan, we have integrate into focus into four category. First, for the food safety. Second, we want to introduce the agriculture 4.0, and to meet it, we have to develop the capacity building program and project exclusive for the focus into a few areas. So with this, we focus is for the agriculture produce in Malaysia. We want to produce to ensure that for the export orientations and focus for selected community. I will talk after this, and then to ensure that food safety and to work together with the private-public partnership. This is one ideal that we share with you. Ladies and gentlemen, to ensure that food safety, we have a quality certification program. We call the MABIC certification. This is ongoing to equivalent with a global gap in the near future. Now we have successful in dealing to the Asian gap, and the next step with global gap to ensure that our product can market into your countries, into other countries. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have the program for organic. We have producer organic Malaysia, and this is one of the certification program to ensure that quality and safe into the global market. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of our strategy for Department of Agriculture. We would like to produce the tropical fruits for the global market. Like in Netherlands, major production is floriculture and also for the vegetables like tomatoes and others. But now Malaysia would like to focus a program to produce more tropical fruit to the global market, which is we work together with the strategic partnership with the industry and we're working together with the exporter. This is one opportunity for the Dutch company to work together with us to produce tropical fruits, especially for first durian, papaya, jackfruits, watermelon, and pineapple. This is a major tropical fruits in Malaysia. We have a long history to produce these kinds of tropical fruit that very success in terms of the quality and taste very good to you. And then so this is about these are 5 commodities that we want to focus in the next 5 years, planned to produce upon pineapples, jackfruits, papaya, watermelon, and durian. With this, we try to export the value export. You can see the value export from the year 2015 to 2018 increasing every year. And this is one to export. If we focus that, Malaysian very tropical fruits has increased from 1.8 billion in 2015 to 1.2 billion in 2018. And then we have focused the increasing, we'll go for every year to become 2.7 billion in the next 5 years. This is one the program we want to focus and target very focused to produce this kind of tropical fruits for the local production and to export a market opportunity. So within that, so we have to improve to ensure that this quality to increase export and run the farm practice we will apply of good agriculture practice to ensure that quality will be improved, increase the productivity, and we want to expand the market toward market access to the global market, particularly in Western market and also to Eastern market and a middle mid market. This is a major for the focus for the durian. You will see in the next 5 years, we already have self-sufficient level and we will increase the export market. Now we have about 70,000 hectares area that we can produce around 5 to 10 ton hectares to ensure that the productions can meet the demand in the near future. Right now, the main market for the durian export is to China and also to the neighboring country. We are looking forward to export our durian to the European market in the near future. And this is a planting area. We showed it in 4 states, that major production area in Pahang, Johor, and Sarawak. And then this is a second fruit we want to focus is a jackfruit. You know, jackfruits now are trendy for the vegan meat, not only to eat the fresh. In the European and American market, vegan meat is one potential to produce from the tender jackfruits we can produce into vegan meat. We can substitute the meat that's very good for the health and also to the consumer in the near future. This is one of the productions jackfruits in the 3 states of Malaysia, like in Negeri Sembilan, Pahang, and Perak. Also produce the Johor state produce main area for the jackfruits. And the third forecast is papaya. You know, papaya, we have very good variety in papaya. We have exotica papaya, and also we have one fruit papaya. This is a premium papaya for the export markets. And then the area productions in Sabah, in Pahang, we have this. We have enough and area to produce this if we have the markets for the next step into markets. So ladies and gentlemen, for the next is a watermelon. You know that in Malaysia, we have very suitable area to produce watermelon in the eastern area. And also we focus to increase the productions. The productivity now is about 17 tons per hectare. But with the technology, maybe we can produce more than double productions. So that we need to have from the technology provider, something like the entrepreneur or technology company from the Netherlands to help us to produce more quality and high yielding of watermelons. This is a potential huge market to the European and also to other countries' market in the future. So this is area for the watermelon production in Johor in the south and the north, in Kelantan and Terengganu in the east of Malaysia. And Presently, we have already programmed to market access to the many countries like Australia, Taiwan, Hong Kong, China, and also to United States, Canada, and also to the EU market. This is a market status what we have been done for the market of produce of Malaysia, like for the all type of fruits or form of fruits we can export to EU market easily to the Hong Kong, Middle East, Singapore, jackfruit already to Indonesia, Vietnam, Canada, Taiwan, Japan, New Zealand, China, United States, and Australia. For the durian, Australia, China, we are ready. And we can try to the Middle East and also to the European market in the next few years. And watermelon also to Canada, China, Indonesia, Japan, and also to European markets like the Netherlands also can enter the market presently. So this is a potential for the target crop community to decrease import. This is our strategy to produce more mango, chili, cabbage, and ginger. This one to substitute our local productions to ensure that now we import a lot of these kinds, 3, 4 commodity from other countries to Malaysia. The sufficient level for chili, cabbage, and ginger less than 40%, so that we want to increase more in the next few years. So this is one opportunity for the investor, for the investment from Dutch company or any other company to involve in the production in Malaysia. In Malaysia, Department of Agriculture can facilitate in terms of area plantations, in terms of for the labor and also expertise for the workers. We have enough skilled labor to work with, but we need more technology to work together. So for the next strategy, this is one opportunity. Department of Agriculture will bring more to be shared in private partnership. We call that strategic partnership between the private and public partnership to work together into this field of area, crop research and development. Second, mechanization, automation, Internet of Things and others, breeding and seed production, soil fertility and plant nutrition. So we need help of us. And then also pesticide, biofertilizer, biopesticide also we work together with this, pests and diseases control, and then post-harvest technology in terms of agriculture extension, urban agriculture, capacity building, and etc. This is a major that we understand that the situation, if we improve this kind of collaboration between the public-private partnership, this is when we see for the second speaker already talked about this, through a public-private partnership, we can work together between the private and government to ensure that the delivery system and also the successful become very easy in terms of production. We work together between private and public to aim one target in the one objective.
You have 20 seconds to conclude your presentation.
Okay, and then this is one example from the private company. We can see this from the Netherlands and the Zainal working in the seed production in Malaysia. And it's a way forward. We would like to invest. We would like to invite all of you to work together with us to invest in potential crop production for export market, and then to invest in seed production industry, become a seed hub in Malaysia for local and as well as market. And then we to invite to transfer some Dutch technology to boost agriculture production in Malaysia. We have highland and also lowland area that you can work together with us, and then to linkage the tropical fruit market into EU market. This is one opportunity for you, and promote conducive business environment. And then we work together with strategic partnership between Dutch company, Department of Agriculture, and local company. Ladies and gentlemen, between these, we have to invest in Malaysia agriculture sectors. We have investment incentive opportunity. We have a tax allowance incentive for the food production project, agriculture allowance, building capacity, and then we have a tax incentive for training, incentive for export, incentive for research and development, incentive for high technology project also we can offer to you. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Muhammad Desa, for a comprehensive briefing of where Malaysian agriculture is going, what we have achieved, and way forward of what will be the opportunities lying ahead of us. And you have correctly and aptly pointed out that the PPP model is actually the best way forward, if I could say so, as you deliberated that to achieve those goals that Malaysia wanted to achieve, we actually require a transformation of the entire agriculture sector. We need to learn to leverage on market-based approaches through a coordinated effort by all stakeholders, including farmers, government, civil society, and also the private sector. And of course, the key success factor of agriculture sector transformation at the national level for Malaysia would definitely then include setting the right direction through effective leadership, strategy and investment models, and also scaling the transformation through finance, infrastructure, institutions, and monitoring. So thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Desa, for sharing your thoughts with us today. Last but not least, I would now like to invite Mr. Damien. He is the Business Development Director of one of the largest agriculture company in the Netherlands, Serathon, and he will be sharing with us and showcasing some of the best practices and success stories from the company with us.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. As introduced, my name is Damien Zwartkavel from Serathon. Well, thank you for all the speakers in front of me, Mr. Ambassador, the other directors and Secretary General. I'd like to give you an inspiration session where the question is central, how innovations facilitate the ecosystems of the entire production chain. I will focus in that regard more on the horticulture sector, because that's where our company Serathon is more active in. I hope you can see my screen shared. Okay, perfect. So the technology does not fail us today. I speak on behalf of Serathon and Horizon 11. We cooperate together. Serathon is a Dutch company from the Westland region. It's a picture you already saw at the presentation of Mr. Vossenaar. And Serathon has also strategic alliance with the Japanese company Denso, which I will explain a little bit more on later on. So, being from Holland, being from the Westland area, I think it's we talk about innovations and technology, or horticulture and agriculture, but it's more than that. It's something which is in our roots. The horticulture is a culture and tradition where we grew up with, and a way of, say, a lifestyle, how to produce vegetables and to be able to make in a protected environment an ideal condition to grow vegetables. This is a picture now of already in around 1900, where in the Westland area a lot of grape growers were active. The greenhouses back then looked a lot similar to the solar greenhouses in China, where we have a brick wall and glass cladding and a wooden structure, and whole families cooperated to do the harvesting and the pruning of the grapes. Today you will not find any grape production anymore in Holland. That has been exported to other countries, but we exchange that to other industries, which I will tell you more about. I will now show you first a movie about where we stand today, what we can do of growing crops and vegetables in controlled environments. You can name this indoor farming or urban farming. For us, it's an indoor farm where we use and implement technology we learned over time to do it without daylight even. Basically, this technology can be implemented anywhere in the world. The crucial question is, where is there a demand and where does the opportunities that lie in the market fit with this condition? So the time lapse you saw was the growing of a tomato crop, growing from a young plant to first ripe tomatoes. In the bottom you see them hanging within 63 days. The innovations, and like you saw in the time lapse, the innovations we are working on in Holland are not just focused on technical perspective. They're integral and multidisciplinary, which means that It's about knowledge of the plants. It's about knowledge of the technology, the climate control, irrigation, hydroponic control. It's about knowledge of collecting data and how to implement that in the food supply chain. It's about packing, storage. So basically you could say that in Holland we've been working for a long time already on making a blueprint of a whole ecosystem where it's not just about growing of the plant, but something where we as a company accelerate in with our technology solutions, but it goes beyond that. We need to cooperate with other steps in the supply chain to make it successful, which would be an advice as well to Malaysia. Don't only focus on the horticulture growing, but make it broader. Make sure that there's good distribution, good infrastructure. In universities, the training on plant knowledge and horticulture knowledge is also being attended for. If we look to the innovations, then these days it's not just about what technology can do, but also getting the right data and getting the right knowledge to apply that data. Basically, we from greenhouses and from growing crops, we can collect a lot of data and being knowledgeable in the field on how these plants grow. But it's more interesting to know what can we do with it and how can we use this data to support the innovations that are required. And those can be from the perspective of energy, from the growing of the plant, climate control, but also, for instance, to change the supply chain and to make the production much more lean and connected to the demand in the market. This is a picture of the Westland area where we are based. Our ecosystem is full of greenhouses, and still it's for us as a company. We work worldwide with our solutions, but it's an important hub where we collectively work with universities, other growers, technology suppliers, where we develop our solutions and make them suitable to be implemented in other parts of the world. There's still a lot of innovation and knowledge being developed here in Holland, and that will be our focus, to keep developing that in Holland and to export that knowledge in cooperation to other countries. This development of knowledge is key. So there's cooperation between growers and companies. It's cooperation within research and applied research institutes like universities, within management of the whole supply chain and ecosystem. For instance, industrial standards and organizations are important for that. To have education, so also to make it attractive for young people to enter in this industry, and also to be supported by government with policies and supporting and putting it high on the agenda. In Holland, we have, for instance, the top sector strategy where horticulture and the export of horticulture is one of the key items where we focus. This has been mentioned before, but our footprint is huge as a small country, also being recognized in this article of the National Geographic, where they wonder how can this small country export so much produce into the world, and yeah, maybe they are right that yes, we do that, but slowly we're changing that because of COVID, and COVID also speeds up the development of more national strategies and implementation of local year-round food production and increasing food security in other countries like Malaysia is now being the trend. This article is already 4 years old, but the key is the knowledge that we collected will be implemented. So horticulture, since we are able to, with our technologies, control more, know more, steer more on data, the implementation of robotics, automation, machine learning, other fields of innovations become on the agenda on the short term. That's why Certon chose to, for instance, work with a Japanese company to implement robotic solutions, which can solve, for instance, the workforce, which is always difficulty, and also what we saw in the previous presentation, the age of farmers. The robotization will become an important agenda. So I'll give you some inspirations of how modern horticulture can look like. These are projects we developed. This is an indoor farm where in multi-layers lettuce crops are being grown, not because we want to put it in an urban farm and in a multi-layer, but because the planning of this production is essential to deliver it in time to the retail, and the quality should be year-round stable, and it's fully robotized. Also, well, this is the opening of the project I just showed, where our king and queen also showed interest, and why they wondered, how can this grow without natural conditions? Well, basically, we imitate the nature. We learned so much from growing horticulture over the past century, and we learned so much about how plants behave and how we can influence plant behavior, and we use technology to do that. So there's nothing artificial or being simulated which is not natural to the plants. I think that's important. With the indoor farms, we also learn a lot and implement in greenhouses. So greenhouses become more modern, and greenhouses are being upgraded almost to an indoor farm, where the models are much more flexible. This is a greenhouse in the center of France, where we implemented a lot of technologies, and where at the nights the screens are closed in the winter time and the lights are on. Basically, at this situation, it's an indoor farm, but during the summer and the daytime, we still use the natural light conditions. So basically, we're looking always to the best inputs and resources and the most sustainable solution that the circumstances can give. Another example where greenhouses operated fully autonomous. So the grower is still involved, the farmer is still involved, but at a lower level. The control and the automation and the decisions for climate control are much more pushed forward to a climate computer. With key set points, it can generate automatically. And then the next step, which I already pointed out, the greenhouses, is the robotization and the arbor force. This is an example of one of the first pilots with the robots for harvesting the tomatoes. Robots are already used for grading produce, for packing, for a lot of industries, but the workforce within the greenhouses, especially fruit crops, still need a lot of labor activities. They can be replaced to a larger degree in the coming years by robotization. So the perspective which we bring from Holland and what we learned is also, as Frederik already pointed out, we have a small country, so we need to be very scarce with the resources we have. Our scarce resource is land. In another country, the scarce resource is water. In another country, it's the whole energy and sustainability perspective or the workforce. So what we try to do by increasing the technology and the solutions, we minimize the footprint of our resources, so less carbon footprint, less food miles, less water usage, and we increase the yield. And we increase the yield by the level of control, the technology, and also the implementation of robotization and autonomous greenhouse solutions. Then I'd like to end with an example of a project we developed in the middle of the desert of the United Arab Emirates. It's a pilot greenhouse of almost 1 hectare, where tomatoes are grown in a fully arid greenhouse. And the comparison is simple. 2 years ago, no tomatoes from the desert, at least not year-round, and not to the high standards of our say Dutch quality, which is largely imported into the UAE. And in the UAE, where the food security has been put also very high on the agenda. And now today, with this greenhouse, local tomatoes can be grown, same as the other example from India, where the produce are marketed to the local market and also produced locally for year-round production. This is a picture from the inside. There's abundance of light, which makes a lot of Dutch growers very jealous and happy, because actually that's one of the key resources, and that's widely available. And with our solutions and our knowledge from the Dutch horticulture, we implement very energy sensitive and sustainable solutions to grow year-round tomatoes. And the result is a local branded tomato product sold to the retail year-round. To conduct the sustainable solutions are very important. So it's important to understand that it's not only the plant growing, but it touches into other industries. Like where I started with the infrastructure, the packing, the supply chain, the sales, the branding, but also for the production, more focused, the production of more technology-based greenhouses and solutions or indoor farms also touches much more in development of sustainable energy systems and use of water. This is a picture where you see Saudi Arabia, where because of the scarcity of water, the whole agriculture production for fodder for animals has been forbidden. We must not come to these levels of very rigid decisions. So let's approach it integral and use the knowledge and step up in policies, step up in business, and step up in technology and implementations of all the availability of knowledge and solutions there are. I'd like to thank you for your attention. If there are further questions, maybe in the Q&A, otherwise at another moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Damien, for a very concise and sharp presentation of yours. And thank you so much for sharing with us that emerging technologies really do have the potential to shape consumer diets and consumption behaviors in ways that could actually significantly impact food systems. And that sustainably producing the right quantity and quality of food to meet the nutrition demands of the world can really be enabled by technologies. So thank you very much for sharing such a success stories of what you are doing every day with audiences, especially coming from Malaysia. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will now bring back the poll question that we wanted to do earlier, but due to technical glitch, we couldn't do so. So the Secretariat will be putting up the poll question for you to pick. So you please choose 3 answers, and then we will be able to share the outcome of the poll with all of us online as well. So let's do this very quickly. So what should be the top 3 priorities to increase GDP contribution from agriculture sector?
All right, there's a lot to read in this question, but we will give you another 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we close the poll and we will bring up the results as quickly as possible. Here they are already, and we would also like to invite all speakers again to turn on the cameras, please, and their microphones.
All right, so due to time limitation that we have on the webinar today, we are going to skip the Q&A session. However, we have seen more than 30 odd questions at the chat board. And I would say that this is one of the most impressive webinar that I have attended or have spoken at, because I see really quality Q&A question coming from the audience. And I would like to congratulate the audience for staying with us the entire afternoon and for putting up high quality questions. So what we're going to do right now is that we're going to jump right into the closing remarks for all speakers. However, all the speakers have been asked to read through all the questions that have been posted by audience, and they will be responding to your questions in their closing remarks. So may I now invite Dr. Maha to address the floor? So you have 1.5 minutes for your closing remarks.
Okay, so many questions, 1.5 minutes, very quickly. So I hear permaculture. Permaculture is a very, I use the word romantic. It's a very romantic way of doing agriculture, and I think it's a healthy way. But how much can it really produce? It's still a question. I would say we need all tools. We need all tools for farmers, breeders, scientists to produce food. Then I also heard incentives for urban farming. Where should it come? Whether it should come from private, public, from both sides, and government should support. We have high-level officers from DOA, MOA. Government should support incentives for urban farming. And also the other one is like kitchen farming, community farming, how can we also encourage that people who are, like, say, housewives and older people who are still fit? So we can also have things like this. Extension program is something that we need to revive. I think it was very good. Malaysia was doing very good. Now, I don't know how much of extension program is being done. There was a question from Cameron Highlands Green, where they're saying, how can we how can we grow more in the limited land? Probably like what we say, we saw our speakers from Netherlands, high technology, precision agriculture. What we need is very good planting material, whether it is stems or whether it's seed. We need very, very good planting material where it could be fast yielding and high yielding, exhausting resources, natural resources. Again, seed industry, seed that can give us more production in a smaller area. Precision agriculture can help us with that. Now, one final thing I'm going to address very quickly, food safety. There was a question of food safety. What are the things in food safety when it comes to agriculture? It could be contaminants. We always see, not always, but then sometimes Singapore rejecting our vegetables because of food safety, high level of chemicals, pesticides. Now, in organic agriculture, there are risk of heavy metals because of the non-chemical controls used, heavy metals, E. coli, and then that's also food safety in agriculture. And another one is animal droppings, from rodents and other things. So these are the food safety measures. There are regulations in the country. Malaysia have got regulations on this, and there are also international regulations that we need to abide with. So that is what I would like to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maha. May I now invite Dr. Mohd Desa to address us?
Please unmute.
Dr. Desa, please unmute your microphone.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, to see there is many questions, means many interested parties to join this webinar. And maybe I can raise some questions that maybe I will answer in written. And then the first regarding food safety, this is one challenge for the farmers in Malaysia. Also, that's one aspect to ensure that there are good agriculture practice, to ensure that along with a good agriculture practice, that to ensure that food safety, that we have a certification program, we call that MyGap, and also My Organic certification program. In Malaysia now, the major challenge is to make young farmers to involve in the agriculture sectors. That's we try to promote the using the technology like IoT, and also to become one of the future farming in the Malaysia. And these kinds of technology can add up more practice in the good condition that young farmers may be interested to join in the agriculture sectors. For the tropical fruits, maybe this is one opportunity that Malaysia have a good condition in terms of weather, soil very fertile, and long years of rainfall patterns, and this is a good opportunity for the farmers to join into production. So along with the system supply chains, we have to improve the facilities. Now we have two export facilities in Serdang and also in near Seman, KLIA airport, that so we can use to become a hub for the export product in Malaysia to other countries. This is the opportunity that we can work together. So for the many questions I have before, so that maybe we'll answer in the, because the time very constrained for us. So maybe answer in written. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Desa, for addressing this. May I now invite Mr. Frederick?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, I've flicked through the questions and I'm trying to send a reply to some of them. I think the most important is maybe that the Dutch greenhouse model is not something that we are or that we consider to be suitable, or is maybe not that appropriate to import or to copy it as it is. I think the most important takeaway should be that we consider agriculture to be an entrepreneurial activity, as a business, and not as a default occupation. The greenhouse, as I showed it, is maybe the Ferrari model. But I think there are all kinds of greenhouses, or protected cultivation comes in various shapes and forms. And there are also models which have a more adapted technology level to local circumstances. So it's certainly not that you would have to look into $1 million investments to protect your crops from the climate and weather and insects. So do realize that there is adapted levels of technology.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frederick. Well, I thought you have a lot more to share with us.
Well, yes, plenty of things, but you know, people might want to run have to consider other activities. But no, and I think the other another aspect I think is the decrease of the use of pesticides, because that's something that is not only important for food safety but also for the environment. And I think these are maybe less costly investments that a farmer can take. It's of course easier to handle in a protected cultivation and in orchards, for example. But I think for the agricultural sector as a whole, wherever it's active, the environment has become really a topic. The climate has become really a topic, and decreasing pesticides and other chemicals is a crucial thing we all have to put our shoulders under. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Frederick. Last but not least, may I invite Damien?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'd like to conclude with actually an invitation. I think, I hope that we could inspire you what we can bring in knowledge and experience we already have from the Holland. And I fully agree with Frederick. We are here to cooperate and to customize a model which fits Malaysia, not a copycat which is duplicated all over the world, because everywhere the market and the conditions are different. The perspective we feel is very important, that we are developing an industry which fits a market model, so whether it's the export or the local production, and only in that way you can make it sustainable, also economically, that you are doing the right solutions, making the right decisions for the level of technology, for the scale of the production levels, to make the right solutions to be implemented and also to be supported by the right policies. So yeah, we're open to cooperate. We're happy to work with Malaysian partners and also to bring in very experienced Dutch partners throughout the whole supply chain, from seed to packing and branding, to see where we can implement and increase the success of Malaysia. Thank you for today.
Thank you very much, Damien, for sharing with us. So in conclusion, I think what we have seen today, I mean, the examples and the success stories that were presented to us today clearly illustrates the impact that innovative technologies could have on food systems. The challenges that our Malaysian speakers have also presented can also definitely be solved when all parties collaborate and work together. However, whatever said, we all know that transforming food systems require interventions that go beyond technology innovation. So for example, creating new and bold policies that address the true cost of food systems could be one, establishing the infrastructure and investment that allow technology innovations to thrive, influencing consumer behaviors with the help of technology and data, building trust and transparencies among the ecosystem or within the ecosystems, aligning towards common objectives and also collaborating across silos are all required to create the future that we want. So ladies and gentlemen, let's keep the conversation going offline or online, and we will definitely see you again in the near future. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon and have a pleasant evening. However, before that, please do not leave the room yet as Marco is taking over.
Thank you so much, Yinsin. You had a great opportunity this afternoon with 4 very experienced speakers. Thank you so much to the 2 Malaysian and 2 Dutch speakers. Excellent combination. And thank you to Yinsin on behalf of the Netherlands Embassy and the MDBC. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying with us for the last 2 hours. We will close with the video again of Agri Malaysia in case you haven't seen it at the beginning. Please stay online to watch it now. We will come back to you after this event, hopefully with the link to some presentation slides, the slide decks of the presenters, as well as some other information where you can go with future questions with the Netherlands Embassy connections. Thank you so much, all of you. And here comes the video again. Have a good evening. Thank you.
This is my first time to be here, but it was very honored to be here and meet a lot of good people and had a good opportunity to start market in Malaysia.
And very constructive. We're very happy to attend this event, which was organized perfectly by the team. So thank you very much. We will definitely come back next year.
It's a wonderful place where you can meet a lot of customers, find a lot of possibility to cooperate.